Hey ho! If you subscribe to my channel, nice one. But if you don't yet, consider it after this video, if it helps, with all the common struggles we all face on the mountain bike scene. If you've watched some of my previous videos, you might know that this is the first time I've done one on bike maintenance, and if you ask my bike mates, they'll tell you I don't usually do much at all. But all that's about to change. This is my old Norco, my first proper trail bike, and I've recently passed it down to my son, and now there's two riders knackering up bikes at the same time. I'm not about to pay double for my repairs. Anyway, let's get on with it. If you ride a mountain bike, you'll most likely have brakes. Well, at least I hope you have anyway. And these days, the brakes most commonly used are hydraulic. Hydraulic brakes work with a fluid instead of an inner cable. The fluid runs from the brake lever through a brake cable to the brake caliper. And when all three elements are sealed airtight, pressure from squeezing the lever with your fingers equals pressure on the caliper, pinching the brake pads on the disc and stopping the wheels from turning, which allows you to slow down and hopefully stop. But when air does inevitably work its way into the system, you need to bleed the air out again, or your brakes aren't going to work efficiently. You'll know this if the lever feels spongy, or when you squeeze it, it goes all the way to the grip and the brakes don't work. And these are the tools I've got to do it. On this video I'm going to be bleeding the front brake, so I'm removing the front wheel. And when you're setting the bike up on the stand, aim to position the caliper directly underneath the lever, or as much as possible. So if you want to bleed your mountain bike brakes, here's step 1. Prepping the lever. Check the position of your brake lever on your handlebars. It's usually angled like so it's more comfortable for when you're riding. But for the purposes of bleeding the brakes, it wants to be horizontal or level. So make sure you've got the right size Allen key, loosen it to adjust it, and once you're happy, make sure it's tightened back up. Then get your torque bit or your Allen key and remove the screw in the cylinder ready for the funnel. Put that in a safe place till you need it again, and then get your funnel and screw it in nice and tight. But be careful you don't do it too hard if it's plastic like this one. After that, move on to step 2. The caliper. To do this properly, you should remove your brake pads. So take out your split pin, drop out your pads and put them to one side. Behind your brake pads are your pistons, and what you might find is that sometimes your pistons are pressed quite far in after the brake pads have had a lot of use, and you might need to push them back before you pack them out. I'm using the opposite end of this pedal spanner, which gives a good bit of leverage without damaging or scratching anything. And once you've pushed them back, you need to find something to pack out between for later down the line when you're squeezing the lever. You can get actual brake blocks for this, but I ain't got any, so I've cut 2 wedge-shaped pieces of timber to slide together between the pistons, which seem to work just fine. After that's sorted, locate the bleed nipple on your caliper, which should look like this. Then fill your syringe with brake fluid. These Shimano brakes take mineral oil, so always make sure you get the right fluid for whatever brakes you've got. Attach one end of the plastic pipe to the syringe and the other to the bleed nipple. Once all that's secure, you need to loosen the nut under the bleed nipple about 1/8 of a turn. I'd recommend you get the right size spanner for this. This should be a 7mm, which was literally the only one missing out of my set, but you'll find it a lot more precise than using a big clunky adjustable like this. Squeeze the syringe to inject fluid up into the system. When doing this, you'll see the old fluid pushing up into the funnel, bringing any unwanted air bubbles out with it too.
Oh yeah.
Once you've flushed out all the old brake fluid, close the bleed nipple back up, dispose of the old brake fluid correctly, and refill the funnel with new brake fluid. Then take the syringe off the pipe and add a little bag like this with a tie wrap to seal it shut. And once it's secure, open up the bleed nipple again 1/8 of a turn to let any more air bubbles come out of the bottom of the system. You can give everything a little tap at this point to encourage more air to come out if there's any trapped inside. And while this is being carried out, make sure the fluid stays topped up in the funnel to stop any air coming back in at the top. And finally, move on to step 3. Go nuts on the nipple. Maintaining a generous level of fluid in the funnel, open and close the bleed nipple while pressing on the lever in half-second intervals or so to quickly flush out any last bits of air. And once the brake lever has a solid feel to it and a short travel distance when it pinches, you've cracked it. So once you're happy with that, you should leave just enough time to test it out. The way I've shown you is what they call a full brake bleed, which will always give you the best result if you've got the time to do it. Thanks for watching. If you found this helpful or got any good ideas for another video I could do, leave us a comment and tune in next time for another episode on the Midpack Rider channel. Nice one.
Shit sauce. Right dip there, right at the end.